Welcome to the 10th ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there are 3 new parts. By the way, stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. And check out the pinned comment below this video to see why we're not learning readings for each kanji just yet. Let's get into it. We're starting today with a part. Technically, this is a kanji, but it's on the absolute highest level of kanji tests that natives take, the Kanken 1. So we're only ever going to be learning this as a part that means grass clippers. It does have an official radical. No. But no need to worry about that. Technically, the parts for this could be no and backwards no, but we're going to leave it alone and consider it a part on its own, since pictographically, this one is pretty easy to remember. There are 2 strokes in grass clippers. As with most diagonal lines, we start with the one that is pulled back, right to left, and finish with the backwards no, cutting right down the middle and making a nice pair of grass clippers. Historically, this used to look more like a scythe at one point, but mostly it hasn't changed much. So for our story, we're going with a pictograph of clippers for cutting grass. Remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it, or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. Our first kanji to use the last part will be father. The official radical for father is itself, father, but we can break it down into an 8 and grass clippers. There are 4 strokes in father, which perfectly illustrate the rule that with multiple diagonal lines, the one written right to left is drawn first. We draw 8, with the stroke on the left, which is drawn right to left first, then the leg on the right, as expected. Then the grass clippers on the bottom are drawn with the diagonal line that goes right to left being first, and the backwards no last. I feel like this kanji flows perfectly, especially the calligraphy. Historically, this kanji was supposed to be a hand holding an axe, marking the father as the one who protects the family. This one, though, is clearly an alien jumping out of father. So much for protecting the family, Dad. For our story, we'll be setting aside the aliens and saying 8 out of 10 fathers would like grass clippers for Father's Day. Imagine a committee of 10 fathers deciding on what are appropriate Father's Day gifts or something. 8 of them hold up their circle signs indicating that grass clippers are acceptable. Or you can just use the pictograph of 8 horse legs over grass clippers. Why didn't I think of that image of a committee before releasing the ANKI deck? Since we learned father, obviously next we want to learn mother. The official radical of mother is mother. We should note though that when this shows up as a radical in other kanji, it usually looks like this, with the 2 dots turned into a single line, meaning this has 1 less stroke than the kanji when it's used as a part or radical in other kanji. We'll break this kanji down into 3 parts: ku part, a dot, or 2 dots, and 1. There is a 4th part in there, but not one we'll be learning separately. It's similar to the flexed arm we learned in strength. I'm starting to wonder if we shouldn't have just taught that as an actual part. There are 5 strokes in mother. First, we draw the ku part at a very similar angle to the one drawn in woman. Then the flexing arm part, similar to the one we use in strength. We curve in the bottom of this stroke after passing through the bottom of ku. This is a little unusual, as usually I'd expect to close a box like this after drawing the inside parts. But that is not the case with mother. The next 2 strokes are the dots on the inside, after which we cut right through the middle of everything with our 1. Remember how I said the ku part is written very similar to the one in woman? Well, that's no coincidence. Historically, this was written very similarly to women, almost identically. There were just 2 dots added to differentiate this one. My kanji dictionary, the Kodokawa Shinjigen, states that these are to indicate a mother's breasts for feeding their child. But the Japanese Wiktionary I use for pulling up these screenshots says this is mistaken and they were only used for differentiating it. I'm not certain which is true, but now you know both. We're going to use the kanji dictionary explanation though and say, even if you don't want to think about your mother this way, these are her breasts, turned sideways, like she's lying on her side. Remember mother as a woman, which should help you remember the different parts of this kanji. This next part is not an official radical, but it shows up in enough kanji to warrant learning on its own. We're going to call it no lying down. It's neither a kanji nor radical, so obviously it does not have an official radical, but we can break it down into a no part and one. There are 2 strokes in no lying down, following an order you're likely to expect. We draw the no radical part, starting at the top, and then the one from around the middle of the no. Please keep in mind that this part will usually appear above other kanji in the crown position. I couldn't find any history on this part, but apparently it's often referred to as no ichi for convenience sake, so that works out well, especially since our story, or image, is no lying down on a fluorescent worm. It's been a while since we saw those guys, or has it? This is the first kanji we're going to learn with no lying down in it, but not the last. I promise I'll point it out for each kanji that it shows up in, which is exactly what this kanji means. Each. The official radical for each is mother. Remember that the 2 dots in mother are a single line when it's a radical in other kanji. The 2 parts in each are no lying down and the mother radical. There are 6 strokes in each. We start with the no lying down in the crown position, writing the no and then the one connected to it. We follow this with the ku in mother and the flexing arm part, similar to the one in strength, making sure to flex that hand in. Next, we draw the straight line down the middle in place of the 2 dots in mother and slice a 1 through the whole thing. Historically, this was apparently supposed to show mother with a hairpiece on, which was her usual state of being, which is apparently another meaning for this kanji. You could think of mom having a special hairpiece for each and every day. Or you could use this weird story. Each no lies down on its mother each and every day. Let us know in the comments which story you prefer, or tell us the one that you made up. Which brings us to the next part, which is also a kanji. We're not going to go into detail on the kanji though until the next level. This part means katana. Its official radical is itself, though it's sometimes listed as a derivative of itself, which looks a lot like the katakana ri. We'll be learning this later as blade. I don't know why I'm talking about it now though, as we're just learning this as a part. Speaking of which, it is its only part, unless you want to pull out that flexing arm which keeps haunting me and throw a no underneath it. There are 2 strokes in katana. We first draw the flexing arm part, which I guess is just an unofficial part of the ToKini Andy mythology now, and finish it off with a no connecting to the armpit. Historically, this hasn't changed much, beyond its old bronze inscription, which was a literal hieroglyphic of a knife. For our story, I went with a pictograph that looks more like what I think this actually looks like. It's a katana handle. Like the video if you agree that this looks more like the handle of a sword than the actual sword itself, because I have to remind you, according to the YouTube Bible. Just 2 kanji left, making this one half of the remaining 2, or 1 segment, which is exactly what this kanji means. Segment. The official radical of segment is clearly katana, and we can break it down further into an 8 and katana. Segment has 4 strokes, which should come as no surprise. We write 8 as expected, starting on the left, and then write the second stroke on the right. This is in the crown position, but it's still basically a straight up 8 hanging over the katana below it on both sides. We write the katana exactly as expected, with the flexing arm first and the no part second. Historically, this has sadly always been a knife cutting through an 8. I say sadly because for us, 8 is horse legs. Which means for our story, yep, you got it. The kanji for 8 was created by a katana cutting through it and segmenting our horse in two. Hurry up and subscribe so we can save the horse. Don't ask me how it helps, it just does. Now we've come to the final kanji in this video. It means now. See what I did there? Am I being annoying yet? Technically, the official radical of now is person. But it's clearly in the crown position, which means that it's really a human roof. That's why the parts we'll be dividing it into are human roof, 1, and fu part. There are 4 strokes in now. We start with the 2 strokes of human roof, crowning the kanji. Next, we draw a single straight line, or 1 part, just below the roof. Well, actually, almost inside the roof part, actually. We then draw the fu part directly below the 1. Historically, my kanji dictionary says that this is supposed to be the tongue of a bell hanging out of the bottom. You could imagine the bell ringing, signifying that now is the time, if you wanted. Of course, I personally see a bunch of A's, as in Andy, who is talking to you right now. Then there are these 2 characters from the mirror realm, and whatever the heck this is. The real story we're using for this, though, is now, on the 5 o'clock news, we see a TV screen on it. The Ando-san roof with a fluorescent worm light illuminates Fu laughing below it. Fu is always laughing. Now and always, because Fu lives in the now. Which brings us to the Lesson 10 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, write it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is segment. Next is each. Just a few more. Here's father. And then there's now. Finally, we have mother. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our level 1 kanji flashcard deck for ANKI on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.